Does the pandemic have you working from home? Or maybe your internet just sucks and you need to know how to upgrade? Well, here are a couple of pointers that I think are helpful when looking for the best internet service. This is what I use when I'm looking to upgrade. This is what I use when I'm looking for different providers. And so I just wanted to pass this information along to you, and maybe you will also find it helpful. Okay, number one, I just want you to know that your internet really comes down to two things, right? How much information you can send and how fast you can send that information, right? The first one, how much information you can send is called bandwidth. The second one, how fast you can send it, is your speed. Now, a lot of people lump these together into just speed, but they are a little bit different, right? Because you could, let's say you're sending little packets of data, right? And you're sending it really, really fast, but you're only sending a little bit at a time. I mean, you're not sending that much information, right? Or at least you're not receiving to your computer or your laptop that much information, right? So you could have fast internet, but it's actually not a great experience, right? You're still waiting for websites to load. You're still waiting for that download to happen, right? It's not going super fast, right? So that's your speed, right? But then you also need bandwidth. You also need to be sending bigger packets of data at that same speed to have a good experience, right? So they are a little bit different, but they just kind of lump them together, right? So we want to separate those in our mind when thinking about this, because it'll help us understand a little bit of these concepts a little bit better, right? So the first concept I want to talk about, right, is gigabit versus gigabyte, okay? There are tons of internet companies right now that are touting that they can give you gigabit speed that is different than gigabyte speed, right? Wildly different, right? Just they're not even the same thing, right? And they'll do this because people are used to talking about, well, that file size is X gigabytes, or this many megabytes, or that many gigabytes, or I'm downloading something at this many megabytes a second, or this many gigabytes. And that is the wrong way of thinking about your internet. Now, they use this, right? The marketing teams in these internet companies use this on purpose, because when you hear gigabit, you think gigabyte, but they're not the same thing. In fact, a gigabyte is 8 gigabits, right? Gigabyte is 8 gigabits, right? So they will use gigabit to make you think you're getting gigabyte, but you're really getting an eighth of what you're expecting, right? So if you get gigabit internet, don't be expecting this like, wow, this is a crazy experience, right? Your internet will be good. It won't be like shockingly good, right? It's not going to be like, wow, I've never experienced internet this fast. You have experienced internet that fast, right? They're just using that language to get you to buy it, right? To get their most expensive plan. Okay, so that's the first thing you need to understand when it comes to this internet thing, right? Is that gigabit is not the same as gigabytes. The next thing you want to understand is that some servers, right? Servers are where information is stored, right? You have like Google servers and you have, other servers, and these house information that you're downloading your stuff from, and it travels along these super long cables over to your house, right? Some servers can't download super fast, right? They can't send very big packets of information. They can't send packets very fast, right? And so even if you have a really great internet connection and you have awesome bandwidth and you have great speed, right, you might not be sending data or be getting downloads super fast, right? So like I play Call of Duty, right? When my kids are asleep, I'm out, I'm playing Call of Duty and stuff like that. And Call of Duty has these insane updates, right? They're stupid, right? You'll have one time I had a 170 gigabyte update, gigabyte, not gigabit, 170 gigabytes, right? And it was downloading that at 20 megabytes a second, right? Now that's pretty fast, right? If we're thinking megabytes, right? A megabit is 1/8 of a megabyte, right? Just like megabyte, gigabyte, megabit, gigabit. So you have 8 megabits to a megabyte. So that still is whatever that is, 160 megabits a second. So that's pretty fast, but it's like, my internet connection I know can be, or my internet speed I know is twice that much, right? It is way faster than that. It has way more bandwidth than that, right? But the servers that are housing all this information I'm downloading the Call of Duty update from can only trickle out at that 20 megabytes a second, right? And so it took forever. It literally took hours to get it done, right? And so theoretically, I could have had that done in half the time, but because the servers were slow, it took a lot longer, right? So don't expect that all the time you're going to have a great experience just because you have fast internet, right? The hardware you're interacting with on the other end of the internet might be worse than the hardware you're interacting with in your house, right? So that's another thing to take into account. Right, number 3, and I should have mentioned this with the gigabit versus gigabyte thing, your computer talks gigabyte and megabyte. Your internet provider talks in gigabit and megabit, right? And so you have to make that conversion in your mind when you're making these decisions, right? Your computer will talk in megabytes, right? In fact, we could just say that the language is bytes versus bits. ISPs, internet service providers, use bits, you use bytes, right? And so you have to make that conversion in your mind all the time, right? The next thing I want to mention is fiber optic is kind of a big deal right now. People are talking about like, oh, do you have fiber internet, right? Google Fiber and Xfinity Fiber and CenturyLink Fiber, right? And yeah, like the main advantage to fiber optic is it can send that information a lot faster, right? So if you have good bandwidth, right, your information can be sent a lot faster. It really is. I mean, you can do like 10 gigabits, no problem with fiber, right? Now, you have fiber, that's one sort of cable. You have coaxial, that's another form of cable. And then you have Ethernet, and that's probably what your house is using right now is Ethernet. So those are the ones that look like the phone jack cords, right? That's Ethernet, right? Now, the newer Ethernet cords, right, category 6 cables, those ones can go just as fast as fiber optic, right? So really when people are talking about fiber, they're meaning like really fast internet, but you can get fast internet without fiber, right? So don't worry about fiber. It's a marketing gimmick to try and get you to buy their most expensive plan or to get you to buy it and allow them to charge you more, right? You don't need to buy it, right? Just worry about your bandwidth and worry about your speeds, and that's all you really need to worry about, okay? Fiber will come eventually, right? Eventually, everybody will have fiber, and we won't even be worried about it, right? Like, it'll be the cheapest option you have, right? Nobody will have category or Ethernet connection internet, right? Now, going along with that, you may have fiber to your house, but odds are your router and your connections in your house, your internet ports, those are going to be Ethernet anyway, right? So you only have fiber internet to an extent, right? Like I have fiber internet to my house, I have a fiber modem, and then it goes Ethernet into my router, it goes Ethernet into my computer, right? Like it's whatever, right? Okay, the last thing I want you to know is how much do you need, right? So now that we've talked about how to go about saying, is this fast because it's gigabit, is it fast because it's gigabyte, right? And fiber and servers and things like that, right? How much do you actually need, right? How many or how much information should you be able to receive from your computer, right? Well, 20 megabytes is kind of as fast as your computer is going to download things from the internet, because most servers travel at that speed, right? Most ISPs will send information at that speed. Now you can get faster, right? Like some servers are being able to send it, at gigabit information, right? Which is, what is that? That's 125 megabytes, right? You can get information that fast, but odds are most of the things you're downloading from the internet are still going to be in that $20 range, or not $20, that 20 megabytes a second range, and that is 160 megabits, right? So I would say as long as you're in that range, right, 100 to 250, then you're going to be just fine, right? You're not going to notice it's extraordinarily slow. It's not going to be slow. It's not going to be super fast. It's just going to be good internet, right? And that's going to be reliable. So let's say you're on a Zoom call. The Zoom call is going to be just fine at that 20 megabytes or 160, 200 megabits, right? You're going to be just fine with that, right? So do you need gigabit? No. If you have a cheaper option that's 250 megabits, go with that one. You don't need gigabit, right? Your computer's not even going to be able to receive information faster than 250 megabits anyway. So you don't need gigabit, right? So that would be what I recommend. Now, you may prefer really fast internet, right? I know of people that get fiber routers and will route things directly and get like a fiber card for their computer so they can send things lightning fast, right? And that's cool. Like, good for you, right? It's not worth the hundreds of dollars a month for me to do that, right? My internet's $70 a month. I've got a really good deal through my HOA. You know, my internet's $70 a month. It goes up to gigabit, right? But generally speaking, it's in that quarter gigabit. That's fine for me, right? As a guy who just needs to do work on the internet, who just needs to get things done on the internet, I don't need the fastest internet, and I need something that isn't the slowest internet. So gigabit's fine for me. I'm fine with less than gigabit. I just have a great deal on gigabit, but you don't need it. You really don't. So those are my recommendations. Hopefully this information was helpful to you. If you liked it, please subscribe and hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Helps me out a lot. Thank you so much. We'll see you later.